quorum. If you could stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have an agenda check today. There is a consent agenda. Numbers 28 through 30 will go after number 16. Numbers 31 and number 32 will go after number 27. Could I have a motion, please, to adjourn the meeting to go see the presentation of the Odyssey of the Mind High School state qualifying teams, please? Diana? Penny? Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion's carried. It is 7:05. You are welcome to come and join us if you'd like. Thanks. Adjourned at 7:31. I believe I forgot to mention the exits to the rear of the room over there, back here. There isn't any discussion on the treasurer's report. I think that was a mistake here. So, moving on to the discussion of the budget.
Now we can watch the board meeting on TV.
Tonight we need to discuss the progress with our budget development. We had an open forum last Tuesday night, which I presented a slide presentation with some information on the budget. Really very little has changed since last Tuesday night. Everyone has read in the newspapers that there has been some restoration of aid. That restoration of aid was listed by our local senator as approximately $183,000. In spite of that, there's very little that we're going to be able to change regarding the budget. We have since received reductions in projected state aid in 3 separate line items, so the net increase in projected aid is about $158,000. Not a significant amount when you look at the reductions that have been made. We're still looking at the same dollar amount for a proposed budget. That was reported last week as $27,596,582. And that was described as being about 4.7% higher than the current budget of $26,357,767. The projected tax levy increase on that amount is 7.3%. Last year's increase was 2.19%. And that proposed budget reflects the loss of nearly 30 positions. People have asked whether or not the increase in projected aid can be used to restore proposed cuts or to reduce the tax levy. It would not be my recommendation at this time that that money be applied in that manner. You will remember that we discussed last time that we had projected our state aid revenues at the amount that the governor had projected. It was also explained that typically the district does not receive that amount, but typically receives somewhere in the neighborhood of $500,000 less than the projected amount. So it would be my recommendation that we apply the $158,000 to mitigate that over-prediction of revenue. The major budget increases are still in place, and they include increases in health insurance, retirement contributions, debt service, legal expenses, special education, and increased energy costs. I explained last week that we had projected approximately 20 to 25% in non-labor reductions, and generally the decreases in instructional supplies and related expenses was in the 10% range or higher. The number of teacher reductions that we're still looking at is approximately 20.7 FTE teachers. And then, of course, there are non-instructional support system, positions in that. There were 6 and 3 administrative positions. The administrative cuts were in the central office, with the assistant superintendent of instruction taking on the additional responsibility previously carried out by the director of special education, effectively eliminating that position. There's been the position of special projects administrator is eliminated from the proposed budget, as well as 1 associate principal position. We have also proposed the reduction and elimination of department chairs at the high school level and team leaders at the middle school level. The current student enrollment is approximately 1,462. One of the things that we mentioned or did not mention before was areas where the projected staff cuts were to be made. I am still concerned about the depth of the cuts in personnel. If we are going to have additional monies to spend, it would seem to me that we need to take a real close look at reinstating positions at the elementary school level. I have shared with our budget development committee my concerns, especially in grades 3 and 6. Grade 3, we are still projecting 25 to 26 pupils per class, and that is certainly higher than any of us want. We're looking at 27 to 28 students in grade 6 classrooms. That too is too high. We really need to look at ways that we can mitigate those concerns as we approach adopting the budget. I explained in our previous meeting what we've tried to do thus far to reduce current year's costs in hopes that we could carry over some of that money into the coming school year so we would not have to make such drastic cuts. We froze all purchases back in December. We have limited field trips and conference attendance, and we have avoided filling vacant positions. At our previous meeting, it was asked whether or not we had considered requesting wage freezes of our various organizations, and I believe I explained at that time that we had sent out letters to our groups to see if they would be interested in that. We did get 2 groups who indicated that they would consider a wage freeze if the Teachers Association did so. The administrative unit has decided that no, they did not support a wage freeze at this time. and our teachers have indicated that they do not support a wage freeze at this time. So we really haven't made any progress in that area. People question the universal pre-K program. That program will be retained. We do not intend to reduce that program, but as I explained last week, we still intend to eliminate midday transportation. There will be some fairly serious cuts at the high school level to address smaller class size and to reduce the number of electives. We are looking at those areas, AP courses, college credit courses, where we feel there is duplication. It is not our intention to eliminate those completely, but rather to avoid duplicating our options. Essentially, all of the other recommended cuts are still in play. We have received the most significant feedback on the reduction in the modified athletic program. Many people have addressed that, and I think everyone needs to know that the Board of Education and administration shares your concerns. We are currently working on ways to reinstate the modified athletic program. To do that, however, unless we have increased revenues, we will need to make those cuts elsewhere. I have asked our interim athletic director to review the athletic budget. She has all of the information concerning the current levels of proposed funding to look at ways that we can restore modified athletics. One of the issues we looked into before that we were told was not a feasible solution was to reconsider the structure of the program. That is to say, to create a modified grade level structure of grades 7, 8, and 9, and have a varsity program at grades 10, 11, and 12. I was previously told that there might not be sufficient competition to accommodate that kind of a program. Since then, I've gotten information that it may be possible to develop a modified program that would provide significant competition. In some areas, you might need to exclude the ninth graders from modified competition, but in that case, they may be able to move up to the varsity level. We are going to look at that further, and prior to the adoption of the budget, it has been our commitment to reinstate the modified athletic program. We will do it one way or another. We will either do it through a restructuring process or finding funds elsewhere. A group of community members got together and provided some suggestions, and among those suggestions were some that were viable and some that are probably not viable. If anybody wishes to discuss these further with me, I will certainly be available to discuss them with you. Please give me a call and I will make comments on them. I can make some brief comments tonight. One of the suggestions was to use $80,000 additional from reserves. Believe me, we are impacting our reserve funding far more than I would ordinarily recommend to fund this budget. I would not recommend that we tap our reserves even further. One other question or suggestion was to use the $80,000 approximately that would need to be restored in the program funding by pulling that money from the increased $158,000 that I mentioned earlier. Because of the way we have projected revenues, I would not recommend that. The third approach was to increase the tax levy for an additional $80,000. I would not propose that. I really believe that the tax levy that we're already proposing is much higher than it should be, and to even ask the public to provide more tax dollars toward that program would be unconscionable. There was a suggestion that we reduce one more full-time teacher position to fund the middle school athletic program. I would not recommend that. I think our cuts are really deep already, and I do not want to see us sacrifice the instructional program even at the risk of losing modified athletics. A suggestion was made to use volunteer unpaid coaches for all sports. We would probably have to get agreement from the union to do that, as those stipends are included in the current teacher contract. I'm not optimistic that that would be a feasible approach. We've had difficulty even filling the coaching positions we currently have open on a paid basis. There has been a suggestion to sell excess property behind the Elbridge Elementary School. And while that might be a situation that we do need to look into, I don't think that this is a timely solution to that problem in light of the current real estate situation and market. There was a suggestion to eliminate JV sports in all or some sports and play 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, which I just addressed. And I think that would probably be the preferred way to do that if we can do that. Another suggestion was to eliminate the athletic trainer position, which would provide about a little over $40,000 of that funding, and that would be a situation that I would consider, although that's not currently a recommendation from the athletic department. I would certainly think that eliminating the athletic trainer position, in my mind, would become as a priority before we eliminated all modified sports. Another suggestion was that we reduce costs for the capital project, specifically in the area of corporate works. That position is funded by the capital project, and those capital project funds could not be diverted to the general fund. Another position was to close the Elbridge Elementary School, and that would not be a feasible solution at this time, although it would be a situation that I think we should begin studying when we approach next year's budget cycle, but we would need to start that study now. We can't obviously wait till we're in a similar position next year. Another position that was given was to fundraise for some or all of the $80,000. I think fundraising is a viable approach, but to raise that kind of money would be extremely difficult. And I'm also a firm believer that programs that are supplied by the school district, for the most part, should be funded through the current revenue streams of taxpayer dollars and state aid. And I already mentioned the negotiations of pay freeze, which does not appear to be likely. I would like to express my appreciation to the members of the community who either called me, came in and visited with me, or gave us ideas. Sometimes I think that we need to understand that a good idea doesn't care who has it. And as we approach this process over the next week, we need to get into this even more seriously, because we need to try to provide a level of funding for our programs that meet the needs of students, but also meet the needs of taxpayers and provide the necessary support for the school district. We have not looked at changing our recommendations relative to the transportation department. I believe I've explained to you, I've explained to you many times over many years, the importance of maintaining a replacement cycle to avoid increased costs in maintenance, and the replacement of vehicles is funded at a high level by the state, so there would not be significant savings, and there would be detrimental results from eliminating bus purchasing. I touched upon reserves. Believe me, we're doing everything we can to use the reserves we have on hand without putting you into a position where you won't be able to run your school district in the future. Budgeting cannot be done on a one-year cycle. You have to look at preferably 5 years, but I would say at least 3 years. The next 2 years are going to be difficult again. It is my hope that as we move through the budget process, we will be able to provide you some additional information in terms of budgetary trends. We want to look over a 5-year period to see how revenues are projected, how they have come in the past, and how expenses have fared as well. If, as we go through this process, you have an opportunity to look at the graphs and charts that we produce over the next several weeks and read the brochures that we provide to the public, please attend our meetings to provide us with feedback. We have a long ways to go in a very short period of time. The Board of Education needs to adopt a budget next week, and we need to put together a brochure that needs to go out to the public prepared for printing by next week. So we need to do a lot over the next 6-7 days, and we will do that. If you have additional input, please feel free to email us or call us with your thoughts and ideas. I am open for suggestions or comments from board members. Oh, one of the things I should mention, contingent budget. If the public does not pass a budget on May 17th, I mentioned this before, the district has 2 options. One option is to go directly to a contingent budget. The contingent budget is limited in terms of what we can do. There are certain expenses that are not allowed in a contingent budget. For the most part, I don't think that they would have significant impact, but those things include student supplies, community use of buildings, certain equipment purchases, and certain salary increases. The salary increases would be those that are not contractually obligated, and the situation in this district is that there wouldn't be much effect in the contingent budget. We have not yet predicted the exact amount the contingent budget might provide you. We will be doing that. We have a meeting with financial advisors tomorrow afternoon to review debt service obligations and debt service reserves. And we'll be discussing other ways to fund the increases in debt service expenditures. That's an area we have extreme concerns about because we have to make sure that the debt service obligations for the community are doable over the next several years. So we'll be looking at that even more closely.
When you talk about building, excuse me, I just want to clarify building use. If you went to the contingency budget, you would have to charge the community to use our buildings?
Yes, yes. If you have a contingency budget, expenses need to be determined for use of the facility, which include primary costs are due to personnel costs that require overtime costs for cleaning, security, and those sorts of things. If I remember right, I think we talked about overtime costs being $16,000, $19,000 each.
And do we have, I think we calculated approximately it would be about $750,000 for 7.3.
A lot of that depends upon how we deal with the debt service.
Okay. I think some of the feedback that I got when I talked to some people on the board, and we haven't even feedback to everybody who's reached out to me personally, but one of the comments that I keep getting back is that if we do go to contingency, the assumption is that we will still have sports, we will still have music, and we will still have drama. And unfortunately, from what I understand or what I'm thinking, and I'm looking for clarification what's being explained to me, is that is where that $700,000+ is probably going to have to come from.
I wouldn't use that number because we need to refine the dollar amount for contingent budget, which we haven't done. And one of the things that I do not want to come across as threatening that you have to pass a budget to avoid a contingent budget. I really think it's unfair to say that until we have the numbers. And I don't want people to think that a contingent budget has been determined in terms of the level that it would be at. If we can produce a contingent budget that can still include things like sports, music, and whatever, certainly I would do that. But I think that what we need to do, though, is we need to make sure that whatever level of spending that we approve, that we can provide for viability of that level down the line. I don't want to see us, for example, I wouldn't suggest we reinstate modified sports unless we really believe that we can continue modified sports into the future. Because otherwise you're only delaying it and you're having an expenditure that you can't sustain. That's why I think the 7, 9, 10, 12 model is the most viable approach. I also think that other school districts in our area are going to find themselves into a very similar situation next year. For certain reasons, partly our debt reserve and our debt service obligations, we're finding that we're probably 1 year ahead of where many other districts are. I also am concerned about too drastic a reduction in our reserves, because once you use your reserves, they are not there to mitigate differences in the future. So, but I don't want to be sitting here tonight without figures and saying to people, if you don't pass this budget, that these things will be cut. We have not determined that. I'm trying to turn things back to the staff to recommend ways that we can retain programs for students and reduce the overall costs. We have to try to make sure we're getting the best value for our money. And so I'm not going to sit here and threaten that if you don't pass the budget, you won't have sports. I think this board, this administration will do everything in its power to make sure that we provide the best quality program at an expense that people can support.
Larry, I have a question on the overtime costs for building use. How does that, not the dollar amount, but how is it determined? I mean, typically it's nights when the buildings are open and the cleaning people, the maintenance people is here working anyways. Where's the overtime coming from? We have a lot of.
Non-school day use. And of course, there are times when you have activities and things that require the staff to remain after their normal work day is over.
As a you mean for public use of the building?
Well, sure, I mean, if you have people here till later in the evening, you can do all these different things and do everything done. I mean, so that happens all the time. It's most engagements is not that.
So would community use still be allowed during the weeknight?
No, you have to, you must charge the
By law,
community.
it is by law, it's by law,
You already have in your policy manuals, you already have fee structures to a certain extent for that. Those would have to be reviewed and probably revised, updated, what those are. Most districts have those. It depends upon the area being used. For example, it's a weekend and the auditorium is being used, gymnasium being used as opposed to classroom.
The athletic trainer position, it's fairly new to the district, a couple of years, maybe 2 or 3 years. I bet it was, maybe, I think right before I started, I remember some conversation about it. It's maybe 4, I guess 4. And I guess my question is, I know this might sound like I should know, but can you tell me exactly what that role consists of? What's his obligation?
Exactly, can I say no, but there's a lot done in terms of student athlete safety, training, use of equipment, dealing with head injuries, concussions, all sorts of advice and oversight over the health and medical well-being of the student athlete. They take on a very active role, especially at the beginning of each sports season, meeting with every student athlete, going over safety issues and safety concerns and behavioral issues and so forth.
I think prior to having been on full-time, I don't know.
That was my question.
You need certified people to do that. And there's a special certification for that. And if you were to eliminate that person, you're going to have to still provide those services, and it becomes another issue, probably where that may fall on coaches to do that work. But then if coaches are doing it, they have to be appropriately trained. And of course, it does take additional time.
That's a different certification than was already required of
Yes.
coaches now. Yes. And
Yes, there's a separate certification for an athletic trainer.
is it required for any sports? It's not required.
I would not be all that comfortable in answering that off the top of my head. I don't believe it's required.
Are there any schools around here that don't have one?
I know, I'd be interested to know the size of our school and what other schools our size have an athletic trainer. Anybody else in our BOCES that has one? Probably Auburn does size-wise. And I know the other one does not. I don't believe it's I don't know, Chris, I don't think it's a requirement, but I think that's something we need to look into.
Apparently, there may be people here who know the answer to that, and I would suggest that if you want to, so we don't open it all up for discussion now, we'll have some time for public comments, and you can help us understand.
Okay.
One other area that I have been asked to address is the buses. We had a proposal to purchase 2 Suburbans. I wheelchair bus that they can underutilize. Could be also looked into possibly selling anything that is underutilized and using that money to purchase, either purchase the Suburbans or sell buses that are retrospective but they purchase some new ones to state aid.
I think that would be something we have to look into, because I don't have specific information on mileage and maintenance of those vehicles. I don't believe there are others by election.
Okay, anything else? Okay. We're going to move on to student reports and celebrations. I think Shrek is just not here. So we will move on to the public comment section and go through the open cell.
Good evening. Just a quick reminder, we will be following the code of conduct again this evening. We have quite a few speakers listed on the page tonight, so I would remind everyone to please stay within the limits of the 5 minutes as described in the public comment section. And before we forget, with the board's permission, I know Dr. Zacher just invited under public comment. Is there someone here that would like to comment that knows this regulation around athletic trainers? It's off the sign up, but I invite you to the microphone with the board's permission. Or
I'm Jim Dunn, I teach Union Springs High School. We don't have a current athletic trainer, never have. I'd say probably 90% of the schools in our section not have one. It's not required by state. It's an extra thing. And Ryan is going to say the same thing. He teaches at Cato. How do you look around? All of our coaches are trained in, a lot of that stuff, concussions and all that. You have to do some extra training if you want. If you don't, 911 is right there anytime you need it. All the other certified, CPR, the first aid, all that stuff covers some of it. Obviously, it's not going to be the same as a certified trainer, but I think you can cover it with coaches. It's great to have it. I won't say it's, I don't think it's required, but to have one is definitely something good to have. But I guess you got to balance what you have to do for things that we're working on. Talking about this.
Wouldn't have been a trainer. You don't be in one spot at one time. So
Typically, they cover one varsity game. If it's a varsity game, and they can be in one spot at a time. So he goes priority to the sports such as football, lacrosse, that type of game, where maybe more injury may occur. Again, you want to be in one place at a time for an event. They typically help students before practices and after, and when they're not covering games. That's kind of their schedule. I think it's considered a full-time position at some schools. You can also you can get it farmed out through like Victory Sports, places like that, and on like a subbing basis, just get them to cover games and that's it. Yeah, we had House out here before and covered some games for us. So you can kind of farm it out a little bit.
My name's Ryan Bernal, I coach at Kingsbury, varsity coach, and over at Boston. We have not had a athletic trainer for all the years I've been there. Also, I was in class in the JV division. 90% of the schools do not have an athletic trainer. Taking part of sections, and I've never been in an athletic trainer class. That's my opinion.
I've got something to say. You're talking about removing existing coaches. I'm a modified soccer coach, and I have 30 girls by myself, okay? If I get an injury, I might be in the game, and I'm trying to deal with injury. I still have 29 girls in the game to manage, and I don't have any help there. It's tough right
I still have all these proof I have to get. He came down, or actually he gave me some, the procedures for the future I followed, and then he followed up with it. And it was very helpful. And I have to say this, if you are considering the first time, how do you make coaches? That's just tough. And I know that, we are supposed to be trained in CPR and first aid, but I can tell you this, a lot of times at games, where I've had a girl, where a girl was like completely passed out. And guess what? I'm not with my team anymore. I'm in the ambulance driving home last time to the hospital. It's just nice to have the training, and I think it helps you for my little. I don't know what's about that.
Next we have Jim Jones.
I already introduced myself. I'm Jim Dunn. My background is a coach and a teacher for 25 years. I've coached varsity, junior varsity, modified, K-2, 3-4, 5-6, name the sport. I probably coached it. Your proposal to eliminate modified sports at Jordan Albert, I believe, will cripple all the JV and varsity level teams. By eliminating the first level of a program school team, you will weaken the chain of symmetry or continuity of a true program. By eliminating modified sports, or in better perspective, I guess I'd say 17 teams is a little bit more than just saying modified sports. That's what it is. You will begin the process of student athletes not experiencing the benefits of practice, patience, and persistence. These benefits are stated on the Jordan Albert Athletic Department website under why to join the sport. In this day and age of cell phones, iPads, and endless video games, it seems 2 hours of practice a day would be most beneficial to those students. Eliminating modified sports, or again 17 teams, will effectively leave time for students to become disinterested in sports, school spirit, and overall sense of pride in their school. At this current time, I think the Jordan Albert District has been stripped of their pride and needs to find some ways to put it back in our community. To remove modified sports, I believe, will set this community and sports program back to an unrecoverable position. With approximately half of the 7th and 8th grade students participating in sports, many of which is their only reason for doing well in school. The combination of eliminating modified sports teams, again 17 teams, and potentially 5 to 6 varsity coaches whose staff positions are proposed to be cut will no doubt create a major void in our professional learning community. In conclusion, on behalf of the students in our district, could you please reconsider the fate of our modified sports program? Thank you.
David Dunham.
Hello, I'm Dave Dunham. If anybody don't know me, I've been in the district for 43 years. I have 2 kids, 12, 9, and my youngest just turned 7 today. He's at a birthday party that I'm missing. So this is my first board meeting. I'm kind of overwhelmed, so bear with me. It's just to show you how strong I feel about modified sports. I've coached some youth sports. This is a wonderful district, and I applaud all of you for the time you dedicate and volunteering your time. The modified sports, I've tried, with everything that's gone on with this district, I've tried to keep a level head, an open mind. There's been a lot of rumors and drama going around in this community, which, you can't listen to. I know you guys can't say a lot about the legal issues, but I don't want to get off track here, so I applaud you for your services. Tonight, with the modified sports, there's one thing I'd like to say that might be missed here. The youth kids in modified, there's a lot of kids that, they don't, this isn't a rich district, so there's a lot of kids that don't start their sports careers until they get into this modified programs. With varsity and JV, if they don't get the modified now, they might not ever get to play a sport because they'll get cut. So I think that's very important. Like Jim said, what's listed on the website is, it's right there. It tells you all the benefits. Another point I'd like to make, and I don't want you to take this the wrong way, because I respect what you're trying to do, it's a tough job. I would like the board to not make I know you have to pass a budget, okay? I know you haven't elected a superintendent yet, but if they were an AD, so I'm on the search committee for an AD. I don't know where that stands, but I haven't heard it. The people you hire, seems like they should have some say in this, because they're going to have to deal with these situations. They have to live with it. Seems like they should have an opportunity to be informed. So, they have to deal with everything that happens here. Other than that, I guess I'm all set. Thank you.
David Romero.
I just wanted to reiterate, I think that the board is committed to trying to reinstate modified. I think that was what Dr. Zachary was trying to say. That we should continue to look at all those factors. Thank you.
So our students are missing tonight, so I did want to congratulate our winter drum line. They competed in states at RIT last week, and they scored third in their class, which is the highest class. They scored fourth out of 20 groups that competed. They were the fourth highest group, and there were college groups competing as well, so they did a great job. I really do want to speak about the budget, though, from the perspective of a taxpayer and as a parent of two kids that are currently enjoying Eldridge. The taxpayer part of me is having a hard time with this budget that's $1.3 million more than last year's or this year's, and it raises taxes more than 7% and still cuts 30 positions. But the parent side of me says, I can go along with it if I think it's realistic and if it's a good budget and it's responsible. At the last budget meeting, Dr. Zacher mentioned that the district forgot to divvy the budget for $400,000. Was that right, on the interest payment, essentially? And so I had a couple questions related to things. I think we've probably gotten far enough in the budget process where you'll hopefully know the answers. Just trying to not miss, obvious things. So one of the things was we had a lot of square space to the square footage to the building. And I wanted to know, including the field house, which preceded, because I see there's a little smoke on it, smokestack. Did we account for additional utilities to pay for that as part of this budget for utilities this year? That was the first question. Okay, so that was one. Second one, in terms of salary budget, how many months, or maybe we budgeted for the whole year, have we budgeted for the two employees who are currently suspended with pay? Have we accounted for them to some extent into the year, the whole year?
They are budgeted for the year.
For the entire year. The other one had to do with the currently terminated treasurer. So in this court case, he won back salary, but that's appealed. Now, if we lose that appeal, is his salary budgeted for the year?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Last one has to do with contingency. So I actually was in high school when we had a contingency budget, and I think it was a little more draconian then than it is now. From what I understand, you have really no control over things. But have we started to figure out what a spending plan would look like under a contingency budget? What that would look like in terms of additional cuts, and have the teachers who would be affected by that. I think you told me at the last meeting 1.92% was roughly what you could raise taxes under the contingency budget. I don't remember that for a fact, but.
No, that's not, that would be what we would increase the budget.
I'll increase the budget by, okay, so. Oh, okay. So just over the rest of it, okay. So obviously that's a pretty big cut. You said 700,000, maybe 500,000. It's significant. So have we gone through a plan for what that looks like? Because you can't wait till the budget doesn't pass and then decide we got to do that.
Right now, I don't see how this district can survive, because we sat down with the administration a week ago Monday, but before we presented the first draft budget, to try to figure out, if we were trying to get to a 5% tax levy increase.
Right.
We estimated we needed to cut about another $250,000. We sat in a room from 7:30 in the morning until probably 1:30 in the afternoon. The last 2 hours, we just mulled over things that I don't see how you can cut $250,000 from the current spending plan and continue.
So in my job, we do a lot of risk analysis. We make radar systems for airports, we have to do that, like planes crash. So you still have to plan for what's going to happen if this budget doesn't pass. And given the atmosphere, that's a real strong possibility for changing this district. And so I don't think you can say we won't survive. We have to make a plan. And I just say that can't wait till after the budget vote. That's my opinion.
That is true, and that's one of the reasons why we are meeting tomorrow with our financial advisors to give us some ideas of how we might do that. We need, the biggest issue we have right now is to figure out the best way to manage the district's indebtedness over the next 15 years.
The last thing is, I just saw on the news today that Fort Byron and Weeks Board actually met as a joint board, and they're actually looking at consolidation stuff, and I thought that's kind of a breakthrough. They might not join the schools together, but they are looking at building services, and I hope we do the same kind of thing. Thank you very much.
Give me a copy.
Hi, I'm Virginia Hoffman, I'm pretty well known. I have a few questions on just one of the slides that was presented last board meeting. It was on the non-labor reductions. It said both these services would be eliminated or reduced, the non-instructional, because I understand you won't be able next year. What services will be eliminated?
I will have to get you a list presented and bring that whole list with me.
Okay. As I brought a list of questions for each of the board members, I understand I probably won't get the answers to my questions, but maybe you will be able to get the answers to these questions before you need to vote on the budget. Will additional staff need to be employed by our district to cover these services that will be eliminated? How will the legacy costs for the additional staffing meet requirement? The retirement system, that's a huge thing, you know that's a huge thing. What is the cost to provide for the medical coverage for said people should we have to increase our staffing? 5 years ago when I was with the district, I did not take the insurance. However, family coverage was $12,000 each. Individual coverage, which was provided by the district for each employee at that time, was $8,000 apiece. We can't afford to hire new people to do something we already have policies for. Says you're planning for a 25% reduction in materials and supplies. What's the dollar amount? In previous years, we had dollar amounts, we had spreadsheets, we had information. We're not getting information. It's frustrating some of us in the community. If you reduce or eliminate BOE services, won't this drive up our costs, materials and supplies? Under operations and maintenance, what is the dollar for 20%? And I asked this at the last meeting. I would also like to know how much currently is in all of our reserve funds. The general reserve, the debt service reserve, the capital reserve. We even voted a new reserve fund 2 years ago, in 2009, 2010, for operations equipment capital reserve. I'd like to know what the amounts are in these. We need to know dollar figures, not just to say this is what we're going to do. And at the last meeting, it was mentioned about $400,000 in the range of that. That was a total surprise to everybody. Well, when I looked at some of the minutes, I found that March 3rd, 2010, in the budget discussion, under debt service, Assistant Superintendent for Business Bill Hamilton, review the projected debt service and local share analysis in the voter-approved budget. The voter-approved project. The analysis was done by Bernard Donigan Incorporated in October 2008. It was assumed $850,000 in the debt service fund will be applied over 3 years, 2010-11, 2012-13, on existing debt service to smooth the budget impact over this time. On the existing debt service to smooth the impact over the time when the new debt comes on. Hamilton shared a recent analysis done by Bernard Donigan and showed the significant local share impact would occur in 2011-12, 2012-13, if 100% of the debt service reserve was used. Hamilton indicated that the district physical officer, Bernard Donigan, and external auditor, Green and Cypher, both advised the district to apply the debt service reserve funds against existing debt so the multi-year budget impact and total share impact is as smooth as possible. The board directed Hamilton to proceed accordingly. I think this may pertain to $400,000.
That's from previous debt service on previous projects within the district. There's a certain roll-off of percentages that comes off and goes on every single year. And those figures that we reviewed were from previous debt service, not current project debt service. The 443 is from current project debt service.
Okay, and then I have a couple questions on the agenda tonight. 5 minutes is almost up. Okay. Number 8, if the duty for the deputy school district clerk, is this with compensation or no compensation? Number 8 on the consent agenda. I would like it stated on the agendas or in the minutes that there will be no further compensation, please. And number 24 and 25, items of board discussion. There's a Mr. Seid, I can't pronounce the name. He's being put on as a school district claims auditor. It says as of April 7, 2010. Is that a typo? Okay. Okay, good, thanks. Thank you. That's it.
My name is Paul Wright. I am proud that my two boys graduate and the daughter that will soon graduate from this fine school. Ironically, the main reason my family moved to this area was because of the school district. If I had to make that decision now, as a young family, I probably wouldn't. My feeling is that some people now are going to make that same decision. I do that will not make it to do that. And that will go to our tax bills, which we cannot afford. So my question, you'll be taking action on 6 treasury reports from July 10th to December 10th of 2010, correct? Are you aware that section 170.2 of the Commission's regulations requires the treasurer to render a report at least quarterly, monthly, in the event that the budget transfers have been made since the last report for each fund, including no less the revenue, the apportionment amounts required in the state budget for. This report must show the status of these accounts in at least the following detail: appropriation accounts, original appropriations, transfer to adjustments, revised appropriations, expenditures to date, outstanding encumbrances, undercovered balances, on purpose, revenue accounts, estimated revenues, the amounts received to date of the report. Revenues estimated must be received during the balance of the fiscal year. Why has it taken 8.5 months to do something that's required by law, done in much more timely fashion? Okay. Are you aware that section 170.2 of the regulations of the Commissioner of Education requires the treasurer to render a monthly cash report for each of the following, showing the cash balance on hand at the beginning of the month, receipts by the source during the month, total disbursements during the month, the cash balance on hand at the end of the month, and reconciliation of the bank statements. Report to show the district's total cash position would include checkbook balance, certificates of deposit, government obligations, including the total cash position. The treasurer report will comply with the commissioner's regulations and give the board a better idea of fiscal position's fiscal situation. And so we don't have those. Where are the reports you're going to vote on tonight? Why were they not stapled to the agenda so people can see the reports? Were they posted online? Okay. Will be taken.
We don't put attachments in the agenda.
Okay. Have the reports that were supposed to be done by law done? They are now. But where are they? And why weren't they done over 8.5 months? I will get my questions in email form at a later point, and then maybe we can get the answers the right way. It's just a start.
Can I answer your question? I'm sorry.
Okay. You'll be taking action tonight on appointing one person as a chairperson and another as a co-chair. Probably a typo, shouldn't have been co-chairs. No?
Yes, you probably should.
They probably should. Okay. That just would make more sense to say it the right way. Okay. Why is it that some of the motions that are made are based on the interim superintendent and some of the recommendations of the Board of Education? Is this the proper way to do it? Is it the legal way to do it? Maybe you can explain why there's differences down there?
All should be upon the recommendation of the superintendent or interim superintendent.
They're not. They're not.
It's not a recommendation. His resolution without recommendation, we don't have recommendation.
You will be discussing the budget tonight and for many days in the future. The Jordan Evans Albert Citizens for Financial Responsibility is holding a forum tomorrow, April 7th, at the Elbridge Firehouse, 7 p.m., to present an alternate vision for the Jordan Elbridge School District budget. We would like to invite all, and I mean that, all of the public to attend tomorrow at 7 p.m. at the Elbridge Fire Department for an alternate view. And I look at you as the board as also being all to be able to say, there is an alternate. We need to think outside the box. I have two statements / questions. Okay. One is, please do not appoint the new district superintendent at this time. Even the best of the best will not be given a chance at this time. There is little trust in your decision-making abilities. Two, I know that you were asked for a public referendum at an earlier meeting, and you deemed it not possible. I also believe that 3 board members are going to not run for re-election. Is that correct? That would leave 6. The State Board of Education can take members of the board away, or the current board. I've been wondering if to build the support and trust back in this community, that you would vote the 6 to not be reappointed and to have to be reelected, or try to be reelected. I'll finish this real quick. Okay, real quick. The time has come to stop. Okay, we need to heal. The only way to heal is to gain trust, and the only way to trust is to start fresh. Please become active and join us at the firehouse tomorrow night for an alternate.
To let the public know that tomorrow night is a concert and shows of our children are involved in.
4 of your children.
Good evening, everybody. I think I failed math in school, but in fact I do it at summer school, so help me out here. If we accommodate through reductions, whether it be teachers' aides, reduction, materials and all that stuff, and we say we eat up that 1.8 million, say we nullify that 1.8 by our reductions. Where does the tax increase come from then? I don't mean to sound ignorant, but if we...
The primary increase is probably in the debt service obligations, which are, right now is estimated to be approximately $942,000.
Which the levy is at 1%, is 107,000 per 1%. So that $1 million is a 10% tax levy. So not only have we attempted to try to eat up the 1.8 million, but also a significant portion of this with other cuts in addition to.
Okay. With all the cuts that we're talking about, it was mentioned there's something about closing the elementary school. Have we figured out how many classrooms or what our space is within the buildings that we have open once we make our cuts to see if that's really actually a realistic goal? I know it's short notice, I mean, to really consider that, but it's a huge, huge expense. And we had talked about that before when we were looking at our signs and, you know, at idling elementary eventually. Do we know how many spaces we would have open? Can we accommodate those students at the other schools?
There has not been a detailed study that has been done. This is what I suggested earlier. I think this is something that definitely needs to be done in a detailed way for the coming year. Not to implement July 1, but in the next round. We did look into that early on, and in meeting with the building administration, I was told that there were still insufficient numbers of rooms to accommodate all of the students in 2 buildings.
Okay.
But if you said to me, how many vacant rooms do you have now? We have a few in the middle school. I know there will be more, obviously there will be more next year at the elementary school as we increase class size and reduce the number of sections. So I do think it's an issue that has to be looked at. But we don't have the time at this point to
Understand.
that kind of a project that's going to impact on this.
As far as buses, just real quick, Mr. Richardson, we talked about like selling buses. From the experience that little experience I have, when we auction buses, they have no value. I don't think there's enough value there. That's not true.
Because of our replacement schedule, we do get a good return when because it's so available.
Oh, okay, yep, thank you. We had mentioned concern about the LGI roof. Have we finished our investigation where we were at with that contractor that had that roof?
We haven't met again.
Okay, good. Something real quick. We tend to muddle, I think, the budget concerns that we have here at Jordan Elbridge with the other concerns that we have had for quite some time with the board and the community and the tension in between the community. The concern is that for those of us who may want to run for the board and be on the board, it's dare I say, a scary thing to want to do that. We want to maybe get involved. But the other scary thing is that when you look at it from a prospective board member's view, once we break to the other side of the table and we're there, especially with our 3 newest members, it gives us the question, or at least myself, the question of, once we are privy to information that maybe we don't know and the community has been trying to judge us on, what does it do to those of us who may want to help out, get on the board and try to make changes and be involved, if the community will soon see us the same way that they see all of you? Because we can't talk, we can't communicate those things. Those are big concerns. So somehow we need to try to really, really work and understand that the budget is separate from whatever else we've been battling, and that the community needs to understand with clarity what they're voting on, what they're getting. We've talked about that, but we really need to separate the two and really make sure that we come together and understand with as much clarity as possible so that we can make an educated vote when it comes to the budget. Contingency budget is not a good thing. So thank you for your time.
Linnell?
president of the Jordan Elder Youth Football Cheerleading Association. Also a youth lacrosse coach, football coach, former youth baseball coach. See a couple of them that coach their person, coach their children. Here tonight, I'm asking you to hopefully reinstate modified sports. I think there's things in sports. I went to Jordan Elder, stayed in the student for 38 years. I had 4 boys, ages from 11 until 3. I live for sports. In fact, everyone knows that. Sports is my life. It's my family. So, that being said, sports brings things that, such as dedication, teamwork, commitment, that aren't in the classroom. Anyone who's played sports competitively, you got to understand in the classrooms and teaches. But there's things that a child can take on sports. Penny's son is a great example. Her son has a terrific story. I won't get into it, but it's a terrific story. Of commitment and teamwork for his team. It was great to watch him take his challenges to come in. I believe it's going to help him tremendously in life. Without the youth football, and I know he's going to play modified football, hopefully it's modified football, that it's going to be a tremendous advantage to their son. So I'm going to make it short and sweet. I would ask all of you seriously to do whatever you can. Thanks.
Barbara Hines.
I've been coming to the board meetings for a while, and apologies for not making the budget one, as I'm kind of bringing into Wednesdays, so I went on Wednesday and that's the way my schedule goes. And I want to talk, just a little comment on something that you're going to, you have on the agenda tonight. With the resignation of the previous band director, the decision was made to not replace the full-time item, let's replace it with a part-time substitute, blah, 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 blah. Save the district a chunk of money. Okay? So maybe I don't understand this. Maybe you guys can help me understand this. At the last board meeting, the decision was made to not hire, I don't know if I'm saying this correctly, the lacrosse coaches that were presented. Am I saying that correctly? The JV varsity coaches were not approved. Okay? So I then was thinking that, okay, maybe this is going to also be a funding thing, and that they might offer the position at a lesser pay scale to save the district money to someone else. I mean, I couldn't figure out if you weren't going to replace the full-time coach, or the head coaches, okay, you got the assistant coaches, okay, maybe you got the assistant coaches, maybe you don't have the assistant coaches, all that stuff that went on, okay? So I figured that there's got to be a break somewhere for our pockets, just like there was for not replacing the band person in full-time status. So must be you're going to replace it with a lesser amount for the cross coaches. However, tonight we're going to hire 2 new people, right, for almost exactly the same amount of money as the other people. Okay, it's contractually obligated, so if it's contractually obligated to hire 2 new people, maybe there's something that I didn't understand. Why wouldn't we have just hired the other people that already had experience with kids? Don't know the answer. Don't understand it. Maybe there's some explanation, but it doesn't, as a regular person, and I'm not a sports person, I fully admit that, I'm not a sports person. But I'm not understanding if it was equal money, why you would hire new instead of experienced. Don't get it. Can you guys explain that to me? And I don't know any of the ifs, ands, or buts. Okay? I just don't understand it. If we're going to hire somebody, I understand the contractual thing, but okay, but it didn't read that way the last time. Okay? It wasn't obvious to anybody that it was a personnel issue. So, thank you for your clarification.
try to speak clearly. My name is Dana Hanson. I've been to most of these meetings. I have an observation regarding this district's ongoing budget process. It seems to be a microcosm of what's been happening in the rest of the state and the country. Remember the old expression, penny wise and pound foolish? Well, I think this phrase describes perfectly the decisions now being made on the school budget. We've been spending like there's no tomorrow, and we find out the money isn't there. We begin to cut back on all the little things that don't add up to much, but might actually benefit the students. We're agonizing over tiny expenses like a drum line or some low-paying teaching position, or even textbooks, but we have no problem with throwing scabs of money at the big ticket items like duplicate administrative salaries, huge raises, and massive legal bills to fight battles that never should have been waged in the first place. And even though our school enrollment is down, we went and built this huge addition with unneeded luxuries, like big new concession stands, sports facilities, dance studio, and probably a few other extravagances I'm not even aware of. This is though the contractor presented us with a wish list for every conceivable thing he could think of, and we just checked off the boxes. From what I've been told, we might not even have the money now to adequately equip some of these facilities. And besides all the additional expenses for these things, we'll have the added cost of utilities to keep everything going. These will go on forever. When I drive by here at night, I see empty parking lots fully illuminated at all hours, as well as a large percent of the halls and classrooms. For what? I own a house. I know that one of my biggest costs is utilities. So I believe a rule, or don't leave the outside lights on, I shut them off. My own thermostat set at 66 degrees all winter. What's it set at here? You turn it down at night? I haven't checked the bathrooms yet. I do hope you haven't let yourself be talking and installing any of those foolish self-flushing toilets. Flush automatically every time somebody stands a little too close. All the water bills cost me a fortune. I don't imagine any different at this school. My point is, there's better ways of saving the school district money than paying a few low-cost items like drum lines and teaching staff. We're paying an absolute fortune for redundant administrative salaries and raises, lawyers, unneeded construction, and wasted utilities. Someone in this room, in fact, recently said, we have a deficit even if the board hadn't made any unpopular decisions it did over the past year. Yes, that's probably true, but what he didn't say was that the deficit wouldn't be nearly as much. Right now, I'm having a heck of a time paying my school taxes, which are expected to rise. But I feel that some of the folks sitting in front of me don't have that problem. Either they don't live here, or intend on living here long, or else they earn a whole lot more than I do. Our superintendent, for example, would have to work about 3 or 4 days to earn as much toward taxes as I have to save up for all year long. This isn't an exaggeration. For all I know, someone up there might be making even more. In short, paying taxes does not impose as large a hardship on some folks as it does to others. I'll end this with an appropriate quote from Julius Caesar. It goes, "The evil that men do lives after them. The good is often carried with their bones." In this case, the wrongs the school board has done will remain long after they resign or are voted out of office. We're going to be stuck with these expenses for years, and I personally doubt there's going to be that much good in turn in the future either. And be thankful I didn't quote Mark Twain because he once mentioned school boards specifically. Thank you.
The capital projects we voted on by the public, in the public vote for the capital project, and all those additions, and in all the presentations for the capital project, the increase in utility, all the square footage, that was all part of the capital project presentation. I just wanted to clarify that all the decisions to go forward on the capital project was by the public vote. That capital project presentations also included utilities based on the increased square footage and everything. And that was always voted on. That was not a board point.
And I can assure you, that you know Lou Barbera, he takes very good care of making sure we use our utilities very wisely and works very hard at it. I appreciate all the work he does.
question on what happened at the budget committee meeting that said the $400,000 wasn't discovered until just then. The way things have worked for the past at least 3 years, we normally pay all of our debt through purchase order. So everything is already set up sometime during the year before the first payments are made. And my understanding is that that service had a payment that was due in December, which means that if the purchase order was properly cut, I know that I had it, that I would do as the treasurer, I prepared the purchase order, sent it on, and then the purchasing agent would approve it, which is also the assistant business manager there, assistant superintendent of business and finance, and everything would be fine, so that by the time the December payment came, the whole purchase order was there, and it showed on the treasurer's reports and everything that we had, say, like 3.4 million budgeted, we had expended so much, and we still had so much left over in the income purchase order, and the balance zero, give or take, a few parameters. And now it sounds as if those duties were totally
It
It
wasn't
ignored.
budgeted for.
It wasn't budgeted for.
But why wasn't it discovered back in
It
December?
was not included in the budget.
So it wasn't in the purchase order in December? Well,
No, that amount was not.
right, so it wasn't on the encumbrance?
It was in the encumbrance, it was not budgeted.
So the account was going in the hole in December? And we said, because they made it sound like they just discovered this 13 weeks left in the school year. We want to be sure to know they discovered it 14 weeks ago when they went and made the payment in December.
It was, what I understand, to bring Donovan's agency within the last 3 weeks.
So no, we caught it in December with the purchase order and company putting the account in the hole all this time. But the purchase order wasn't in place, or wasn't in place?
A purchase order
But,
is a piece of paper, that would be more of a statement, not a budget.
I mean, in the treasurer's report though, the treasurer's report for the encumbered holding in September or in December?
We need to stop this discussion because we're not going to
But then are you approving the December treasurer's report showing that it has the encumbrance on it? That is the question. I mean, that is going to be in there? That is the question, saying that it was perfectly said at the meeting last week that no one knew about this until like a few weeks before.
But that it wasn't budgeted for.
Right, so they knew about, so,
That it was budgeted for, and the budget is prepared in May.
right.
I think this issue is being misrepresented. I'm asking you to.
Okay, just saying that it would have appeared on the treasurer's report that you're approving, so you're taking the December report. If we come see it at the main office, we're allowed to see that it was on there with the negative on it in December. That is what you're saying with an approved treasury December report. Thank you.
We have David Sibley.
Hi, my name is Dave Sibley. I am proud to be a teacher board member, and I'm the board representative of the high school. Since 26.7, instructional non-instructional layoffs were announced last week, and preventing months and weeks before, members of that come to us and ask why we opposed to stay with the program since our safety principal last October. Even community members and our students have asked why JETA is staying low. As a supporter of the idea from the outset, I can believe exactly why. Teachers will not burn bridges. We work for the Board of Education. We work for the community. We work for our students. But most of all, we wanted to show that we were actually doing what has become the most overused cliche in all of education, doing what's best for kids. We hope that we earned your goodwill by doing so, and now we would like to try and put that goodwill to good use. Like too many of our teachers, some of you on the board won't be here next year. And like our teachers, you should consider how you can best leave a positive legacy. Like our teachers, some of you from the board and the community may be angry, frustrated, and demoralized. Like our teachers, you could have all allowed your emotions to get the best of you and leave a scorched earth in your wake. But like our teachers, you will not. The Jordan Elbridge Teachers Association will permit its members to display the professionalism that you predecessors recognized when you first appointed them and when you granted them tenure. You can be certain that they are going to act in a way that they can say that they have left Jordan Elbridge doing what is best for kids. So we ask you, board members, who will hopefully be looking at ways to preserve and restore instructional programs and positions, and community members who will be asked to pass the least disruptive budget possible, to examine your thoughts and your actions so that you can join us and say that you too have done the same. Teachers will never burn bridges. We hope that starting tonight, you can all begin the long, hard work to reach out and rebuild yours.
That concludes the public comment.
I just wanted to say that, as a member of the board, that I strongly support modified course. And I truly believe that if there's a gap from the URAC and high school course, it's unlikely that the students get involved. And all students are much more successful students. You know this in my heart, and I do not like to modified course. I think we all agree with that.
Let's move on with our agenda here tonight. I'd like to have a motion, please, for approval of the March 16th meeting minutes. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried. Jeannie? Opposed? Diana? Michael? Michael, you just for the 16th on the garden. I just need you guys to speak up. I can't hear you. Jeannie and Michael were not here. Thank you. All right. Could I have a motion, please? I'm sorry, motion, please. Could I have a motion, please, for March 28th meeting? Erica, second. Any discussion?
Yes, I don't have a copy of the minutes and I was not there, so I don't have a copy. And I was wondering, if the expression that the petition to vote on the number of board members was discussed at that meeting.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried. Can I have a motion for the consent agenda, please?
So moved.
Penny? Connie? Any discussion?
Yeah, I was wondering, maybe afterwards, but I know it's been on the agenda and then before, but it doesn't have a compensation, because there's no additional compensation.
Yes, no additional compensation, number 8.
Number 12 should be co-chair.
Also, can we clarify, what is that with or without any additional compensation?
No compensation.
Can we have that added into that?
I have a question about number 8.
Yeah.
Now, Eva is going to be, she will be,
She'll be back in the fall. Yes, she will be doing.
can you speak up?
Mrs. Champion will be, with no additional compensation, will be backing up Ms. Bandolinos as the deputy school district clerk. Ownership. Okay? All right, make sure, any other questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion 17, please. Connie?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. I'd like to put the wording here and approve the treasurer's cash report. On all these treasurer's reports, it should be the treasurer's cash report. Please put that, notate that for all of these reports, please.
We also received the budget status reports, however, we did receive the budget status reports, but not at the same time, and they need much more time to review by board members before they're approved. I'd like to thank you for all the hard work you had to go through. And then we'll call it.
Yes, thank you. Okay, could I have a motion, please, for the July 2010 report?
So moved.
Diana, any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Could I have a motion for the August meeting?
So moved.
Diana? Ryan? Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Could I have a motion for the September report? Diana? Who's that? Roger? Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Can I have a motion for the October 2010 treasurer's report? Erica? Diana? Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Can I have a motion for the November 2010? Ryan? Connie? Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Can I have a motion for the December 2010? Roger? Diana? Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Can I have a motion for Christine? Diana? Connie? Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Can I have a motion for Mr. Siemiatkowski? Roger? Erica, second. Any discussion? 2011, correct? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Can I have approval of the payroll claims audit report? Diana? Connie? Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. I'd like to read just a brief enclosure before we vote on this next resolution. The Jordan Elbridge Board of Education is pleased to announce that we have identified a final candidate for the superintendent of schools. The search process began in November and has reached the final stages. 17 candidates applied for the position. The Board of Education interviewed 7 and moved 3 candidates on to meet with 3 committees and students. After the committee interviews, it was clear that all committees and the board came to a unanimous agreement on Mr. James Froyle. All committees and the board had an opportunity to discuss the elements of the candidate profile as listed in the vacancy notice and agreed that Jim possesses and has demonstrated many of these characteristics. The board believes that Jim's leadership will allow all faculty, staff, and community members to work together to provide the best possible learning outcomes for our students and together move toward a positive future. The board would like to sincerely thank all who contributed their valuable time and efforts in the selection process. Could I have a motion, please? Penny? Michael? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. All right. I have a motion for number 31 for Mr. O'Hara. Connie? Second, please. Diana? just like to thank Mr. O'Hara for stepping in to help out our boys lacrosse team. Very late notice. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion's carried. Brian? Can I have a motion, please, to appoint Todd Richardson for JV? Erica? Connie? Any discussion?
Yes, I have some discussion.
Can you speak in the mic, please?
One of our community members asked about the salary for this position, and I wanted to make it clear that Todd had requested to waive the stipend for this position. It is a contractual item, and the stipend is not allowed to be waived. He does intend, after all is said and done, to find some way to contribute the money back to the school or in some other way. He does not plan to take, to earn any profit from this.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Brian. Okay, we do have a need for executive session. I did want to share one thing on the board chair. Tentatively, right now, we're working on an open meetings law training on May 19th. Some of the board members are still trying to work with their schedules to try and get that night free.